Hey, and we're live, everybody. It is Meeple Syrup time. I know it's been a while. The last show was like mid-December. So I've kind of taken a month off, which is much needed, let me tell you. Burnout's a thing, guys. Burnout's a thing. So we don't want to get burnt out. But today we have with us a special guest. Oh, why is this the bottom third, Hafiz? I don't know. I mean, it's
It's
important.
foreshadowing.
It is foreshadowing,
Yeah.
but we should say hello to everybody. Now, I know we're probably not going to get tons of people today because I didn't really announce that we're coming back until today. So if people are here, great. If not, Hafiz and I will chat and talk and do all sorts of things. And you can watch this on the replay. It's going to be online. It is live, and we love interacting with you all live. But if you're not here, that is also fine. Write comments down below, and we'll get back to you. And come back next week when we'll see you with other guests and things like that. But howdy. And hey, good to see you, Deadpan. And good to see you, Luke. You see how see on the little heads go in the in
Oh
the
yeah,
in the
that's awesome.
worm? Yeah. Now they hide behind the lower third. So hi to everybody who's watching. It's good to see you. Hope you had a very happy holidays. Got to spend some time with family, playing games and whatnot. This is Hafiz, everybody. So welcome to Hafiz. Hafiz, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I am a Toronto born and bred indie board game designer. I'm also an educator, but I've moved out of the classroom into working for cultural institutions. So I've worked in museums. Currently, I work at an archive. So I get to make cool, fun activities for kids when they come in, and I get to lean on game-based learning to do that because when they come to me, I don't want them to just do what they could do in the classroom. So if I can make a cool game for them to play, always happy about that. Um, Games are I've always kind of been part of my life. I feel like I come from a large family, and so when we had the family get-togethers, all the adults would be together, and then all the kids would be together. And so usually someone had a deck of cards. We play President, or someone would suggest Monopoly, which more often than not ended in some kind of fight, and then
Yeah.
we'd shift to Clue or Scrabble. And so it's always been a core memory, a core part of growing up. And then I just started to get into it a little bit more after I became a teacher. Funnily enough, I actually taught in Essen, Germany, and this is before.
Really?
Yeah, this is before I got into board games, and it wasn't until I left, I came back to Canada, started teaching here. I decided to make an end of unit activity where my high school kids had to make a board game, and I got 30 different versions of Monopoly. And then I realized, oh, I didn't actually sit down and show them what something should look like an example. And that was my introduction down the rabbit hole of design, because as the more I started learning about it and creating stuff, the more I'm like, this is super interesting. And then the pandemic came around, and I needed
Hmm.
a creative outlet to get my energy out. I have an identical twin brother, by the way. So the two of us used to just talk back and forth with one another. And he was getting really into D&D, and I've already been doing some stuff for the classroom. So I'm like, oh, let me actually just like fiddle around and start seeing if I can make my own games. And at that point, my wife was trapped at home with me, so I had a built-in play tester, which was great. She wasn't into board games originally, and now she really is into board games. We played a lot of
Really? She
teen games.
really is?
Oh, here's the thing. So if I lose at a board game, she will take away my wedding ring because she says only winners get rings. She will hide it from me, and I can't make cooperative games because there has to be a winner.
She is
And
quite
so
competitive, apparently.
she is the best. And she beats anytime I make a game, she beats me almost like every single time. And the smack talk is amazing. There's a basketball game that I'm going to be launching soon. She is actually the trash talk card in the game. The artist was like, "Hey, do you want to model these on anyone?" And she volunteered. She's like, "I would like to be the
I would like to
card,
be the trash talk
the
card.
trash talk card." I'm like, "Okay, you will be the trash talk card." And so yeah, it's come quite a bit around. And so my brother, as I mentioned, into D&D, and so he actually launched a Kickstarter. He got me into Kickstarter originally years ago. He launched one. It was successful, and so got a little bit of a taste of it. I'm like, well, I kind of feel left out. I want to try this myself,
Hmm.
which for better or worse is now happening. And so and you've been through all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's kind of what's been here. And so over, especially over the pandemic, I've been really trying to get more into game design. Joe Slack had run I think his first virtual board game summit, and I know the next one's coming up this February.
Hmm.
And I joined that, and a lot of the advice was get involved in the community, join the board game design lab, listen to podcasts. So then I found
100%.
yeah, found out about ludology, found out about how to think like a game designer, of course, the board game design lab. Um, and it used to keep me sane. I would go for these really long wandering walks during the pandemic around the neighborhood. And I would throw my headphones on and I would just have a
Yeah,
board
yeah.
game design podcast on at that time. And I'd just walk around and listen to it. And half the time I'd like get so entranced in it that I'll get lost in the neighborhood. Be like, I don't actually know where I am right now, and then have to check my app and be like, oh, I'm like 3 kilometers over from where I actually live. I should make my way back. But it's
Right.
good because then I could listen to another podcast on the way home.
There you go. So win-win, really. And you got some exercise. You got out in the community. You got to see parts of Toronto that you hadn't seen before.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess this. So that was really the birth of Printer Inc. Games,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And so everybody out there, Hafiz's last name is literally Printer.
And
Um,
my initials are HP.
yeah, which is also a printer. So
Yeah.
it's like fate, right? And what is your brother's name?
My parents made it great for us to switch classes. So my name's Hafiz. His name is Hamid.
So you're
So
both HPs.
we're both HPs, and we have almost the identical name. When it was great when we were in school, we used to switch classes all the time. And then when I became a teacher, karma caught up to me because the first year I was teaching, I had 3 sets of twins spread across multiple classes, and then they started doing it to me.
Yes, karma.
Yep.
It's always going to get you back. Always going to get you back. So, printer and games. Tell me a little bit about that. What's your mission? What's your statement? What's your driving impetus to design and make games and self-publish?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of it's stubbornness. You're quite stubborn, which is kind of why we're going that direction. But it came out of, again, this idea that we want to be able to create something, like, especially during the pandemic, you're hearing so many bad things, so many destructive things. We wanted to do something constructive. We wanted to do something that would bring joy, even if it was just like if we made 10 copies of something for ourselves, our friends and family, that would be perfect for us. And so, there's kind of like two sides of it. As I mentioned, my brother's more into RPGs and Dungeons and Dragons, so he kind of thinks up weird, interesting things around that side.
Hmm.
The Kickstarter he launched is called Malfunctioning and Malicious Magical Items, and essentially, it's imagine if the Acme company from Looney Tunes made
Right.
D&D magical items. He was just so tired of our band that we're playing over Roll20 virtually over the pandemic, never checking our gear, that he decided to make broken items, but not broken as in overpowered, broken as in weird things would happen. An invisibility ring you put on, and then it just shrieks when you wear it, or a
You're
gin.
invisible, but it shrieks.
Exactly, yeah. An amulet of bear transportation, so you could transport, but your clothes don't. And so you could use it in interesting ways. He one of the ones that I think is hilarious is there's a gin bottle, but
Yep.
it's a bottle of gin, so a genie will come out drunk, and then if you are asking for certain things, you roll, but you like everything that you're going to get is just slightly off.
All
Um,
sorts of messy.
so all kinds of weird, fun, wacky kinds of things. He had a lot of fun with that. Lots of puns. And so he does that, and I do more the board game side of things. I think our brains work in that way. Like we'll brainstorm back and forth, and it's a good reason for us to just like chat every day. So I'll tell him,
He's a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, or
I say he's the rock and roll, to be honest.
okay,
Um,
you're more country.
yeah, yeah, I'll
Okay.
give him that. And so I'll just pitch an idea to him. I'm like, hey, what if we made a game that's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but you're playing as the factory and you don't want the kids to win because you don't want anyone to inherit this place? Can we make a game where we're just like slightly murdering children in a candy factory? And he's
And are
and
you
he's like,
making that?
uh, it's jotted down in my idea book of like a gazillion ideas,
Yeah.
so it's there eventually. But our goal is to kind of loop back to your question. What is the purpose of this? Um, we want to make games that are quick to play, easy to get into, and highly thematic.
Mm,
And we also want the games to be represented in some way. So the whole point is the kinds of games that we love, that we're able to bring our friends and our family together around, are the ones that tend to play pretty quickly, tend to
yep.
have really small intros and teaches and rules. Not to say they're not complex or they don't have like a lot of depth to them. And so we wanted to see, could we create things in that way, things that are a bit more whimsical, things that are a bit more relatable as well too, and things where we see ourselves in the games as well too.
Right.
Um, And so the art for the basketball game, I really tried to make sure that it represented the diversity of people who play basketball,
Yeah.
whether that's different backgrounds, different abilities, whatever else it might be. And then even just other kinds of games where we're working on a game which we got our title for the game from an episode of Meeple Syrup because
Oh, hilarious.
you did a session with Joe Wiggins from All Play
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
looking at cell sheets, and I sent two
Yes.
of them in, and I had
Yep.
one. It was a dice rolling game where you're supposed to be on a game show, and I just called it game show because I'm terrible at naming things. And someone in the chat was like, "You should call it the Dice is Right." And I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
that is brilliant. How did so? We're working on that right now because when every time we were sick growing up at home during the
You'd watch
daytime,
Prices Right.
we had watched game shows and talk shows and all the random
Would you
things like,
also drink like flat ginger ale?
oh yeah, oh 100%.
Yeah.
That was a must.
Canada
Uh,
Dry, of course.
that's you can't. It's classic. You can't
Yes.
go with anything else. And so it's like, okay, that's a core memory for us. Can we create that experience where people are getting together and they're having fun and there's
Do
something about
do do
rolling dice?
do
Yeah.
do 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 do.
So we're kind of fiddling around with that one right now. Most likely as a print and play, and we're going to try and
Yeah,
have
it's
some,
perfect as a print and play, right?
yeah, and have some familiar pieces, but not so familiar where we get into legal waters with food copyright. But
Sure.
yeah, so yeah, that's kind of where the whole game thing came out of. It started really as a can we create something for ourselves, and then you know with
Then
his, it's
share it
like
with the
hey,
world.
people might really want his thing, and his thing was successful, even though we did no marketing. He was able to fund, and it kind of encouraged me to think about okay, well, what do I want to do? And I was working on a few different games, and there was this basketball one which I was really passionate about because I love basketball and I love board games. I'm like, well, can I merge the two? And so that's kind of what happened there. And um, like I want to pitch this, but I also want to do it the way that I want to do it, which is where the
Right.
stubbornness came in. And so I'm like, well, I'm not really doing anything else while we're stuck at home, so I'm just going to focus on this. So it's been a few years building up to get there, but we're finally reaching the finish line this spring. Fingers
Yeah,
crossed, and knock on wood.
that's great. So nothing but net. First of all, before we go to nothing but net, back to Printer Games for a second. So Printer Inc. Games is both you and your brother together
Yeah,
at last,
yeah.
like nuts and gum, and you're doing both RPG and board games, so all things tabletop, kind of.
Ideally, yeah. I think our goal is to we're getting our footing underneath. So after his Kickstarter, we learned a lot. After mine, I think we'll learn a bit. And at that point, we should have earned some money. And our
Hmm.
goal is to alternate back and forth. So then,
Between the things
yeah,
he
so
wants to do and the things you want to do.
yeah, so we'll do my board game, then we'll do something D&D related that he wants to do, and then from there
Hmm.
we'll use the funds too. So we're constantly just using one to then get the next one set up. But
Yeah.
we're also just chatting back and forth. He has new ideas for an expansion, so he's always testing out new magical items when we're playing games. I'm pitching things to him, and he's one of my play testers as well too, and he'll suggest weird, wacky things that just somehow manage to work, which is why I love talking back and forth with someone else, but someone who essentially thinks and looks exactly like
I was
me.
just gonna say he looks like you exactly, so
Yeah,
it's as if you thought of the idea yourself,
right. Yeah, I don't have to give him any credit.
right? You don't. You could just say you did it,
Yeah,
and if you videotape it, it looks like you did it. So
there
there
is
you go.
no proof whatsoever that he actually contributed. Because you're right. If someone's just like, "Here's a film of that," that's me.
It's totally. Do you sound the same too?
We sound slightly different, but enough where if we were to go to a movie together and chat like after the movie's finished about the movie, people would be really confused because why is that guy talking to himself? Um, yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so nothing but net.
Mhm.
Obviously basketball related. Are you a Raptors fan? Just
Huge Raptors fan.
there you
I
go.
there's a bunch of basketball books on the shelf behind me
Yeah,
that my big head is blocking right now, and half
that's
of them are about the Raptors.
good. You have to be a Raptors fan. That's important. Okay, so nothing but net. Tell us about what it is. Tell us about the mechanics. Obviously, the themes are there, and really, what's the experience that you want people to have playing the game? You said it's quick, small footprint, easy teaching time,
Mhm.
but not lacking strategic depth and things like that. Which is honestly for everybody out there who's listening, one of the best types of games that you can make is something where the rules are so simple that you don't have to there's not a lot of memorization in the process, but that the depth is in how the game is played, your decisions with the cards or the pieces that you have. That's really where you can get, I think, those games that are really sticky. because and card games are great for that because all the rules for how this card breaks the rest of the rules of the game are usually literally right on the card. If the game is simple, like I don't know how simple Nothing But Net is, but a lot of card games are really just like play a card, draw a card.
Mhm.
That's the rules of the game, but all the rest of them are on the cards, right? So, anyways, so tell me,
Yeah,
Nothing But Net.
and it's kind of like that. So the game originally started as something very different from what it was. Um, I wanted to create essentially a simulation of playing fantasy basketball, and I had all of these
Oh,
notes
okay,
written down. And it's like, okay, you'll roll this many dice, and they're going to represent like all the different stats, and then you can draft players, and then based on who you draft, then you could roll the dice and see how you did, and drop people and trade people. And it was just a whole big mess. And one night I couldn't sleep and the game was just running around, rolling around in my head. And I'm like, this, it's not what I want. And then I just tried to think about, well, what is it I want? It was actually opposite what I had started planning with. I was creating something that was very mathy, overly complicated, and felt more like you're a manager rather than a player. So
hmm
I ended up just thinking, like, okay, well, what's the opposite? What's it like to play the game? It needs
which
to
is not a bad game, by the way.
be.
Manager games are actually pretty fun, and I think there's space. Like Nothing But Net Manager
Mhm.
would be a cool game, after you get Nothing But Net out there.
Yeah, that's true. I'm thinking about a legacy version of what the
Yeah, or
game could look like
campaign
down the
mode.
line, where
Yeah,
you're like drafting and going through different
yeah.
layers. But at that point, I'm like, again, I want something quick. I want something fast. This is something I'm playing with my wife at home once we're stuck at home,
And
and
is it
so
a 2 player game then?
it's a two-player game. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it ended up shifting into, well, what is it like to play basketball? It's kind of like a tug of war. I'm trying to do
Mm.
something, you're trying to stop me. If I can shoot the ball, you might be able to block me. If I can pass the ball, you might be able to steal from me. And
Right.
so, like, well, what if I just had that dichotomy? What if I just had cards and you can play some cards that give you offense to try and score, and I can give you some cards that let you be disruptive, and those are the defensive cards. And now it's a card management game. And we were playing some different deck building games. And one of the things that I didn't really like with deck building games is that there's some cards that just aren't great, and you have to build up and then eventually shed those ones that you don't like. And so, what I was thinking with that was, well, what if all the cards were good, but they were just situational? And so, there isn't one that's better. Well, there's some that are better, but if most of them are generally around the same area, then you don't feel bad about having drawn this one card. It's just, how do I want to use this now? And
hmm
so, thinking about combos in the game. Hey, if you play this, then you can play this and you can play this. And the theme really helped with that because when I was thinking about creating the game, I was thinking about creating it for people who are into basketball, not so much people who are into, say, hobby games. And
Right.
so, what would be intuitive to them? And so, certain actions would then lead to certain things. So, if you're shooting the ball, you should be able to shoot the ball. And so, originally, I had a whole bunch of dice for that too. And playing D&D with my brother one day, he's like, well, why don't you have like four different D6s? Why don't you just use a D12? It's like
Yeah.
two D6s merged together, is roundish, so it looks like a basketball now.
Colored
And
orange, and we're golden.
your stats still stay the same. And so now I'm like, oh, that's perfect. And
So,
so
did you do a D12 with like 1 to 6 twice?
we actually have, oh, I got it here. I have a D12 that has some custom things on it. So there's some blank spaces, there's some 2 pointers, some 3 pointers, and plastic
Oh,
bears.
I see. I see.
And so, where is it? Um, there we go. So
So this is
it's
your
this is the prototype, yeah.
prototype.
And so it's got some empty spots. It's got some 3 pointers and 2 pointers, and then some cards will let you combo to like score more, score better.
Hmm.
And
Like
we were
and
talking.
one. Like, is there an and one card?
There is an and one card in there. So if you score and you just really want to stick it to your opponent, you'd be like, eh. The
Yeah.
fun part about it is um, you feel like you're just playing a game of pickup. It's light. You're trash talking one another. There's dunk cards in the game. They're because they're so powerful. The one time use ability, so you can play it on someone, feel really good, but that person doesn't have to worry about you coming to dunk on them again.
Every
Um,
time, right?
exactly. And the part that I think is the most fun is I got the box over here. But we designed it so the box turns into your basketball
Your
court.
backboard. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can just throw your dice in here. And so there's just that feeling of like, hey, you can't make it out to the basketball court. Well, you have one now in your home that you can play.
There you go.
And
I'll have to get it for sure when it launches because my kids love basketball. So
oh, awesome. Yeah.
big Raptors
Uh,
fans as well. So
my dad used to watch Raptors games with me when we were when we were growing up, when we play basketball and you shoot around with us. But now he's getting a little bit older. I'm getting a little bit older, and so it was also this idea of like, can I still capture that feeling of going and playing with
Yeah.
someone? And it's short. It's not Gloomhaven by any means. It's a play a card, roll the dice kind of game,
Right.
but it plays in 15 minutes, and so it's all you really need. Um,
Which is really cool because again, I think if you made like a manager or draft or legacy thing, it's a perfect vehicle for that kind of thing because you could play through like 4 or 5 games in an hour and
mhm,
then do all the legacy stuff and then put it away, and then the next day you play another hour's worth of it, and then by the end of a week you've got like the whole season done, right? So
mhm,
I think a game that plays quickly and you can do like the highlight reel kind of
mhm.
plays is really fascinating. Then you can build up your characters, your teams, or whatever. That's really neat. That's really, really neat.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because we've actually just been working on a mini expansion for the Kickstarter that people can get as well. Chris Porter,
Yep.
guest from right
Yeah,
before the new year,
that's
he's
right.
he's actually in it. He's a big Spider-Man fan, so we in the game. It's like a mini tournament. So you're playing, and as you're playing, you're moving to nicer courts, and you can earn different. You can earn your nickname, which gives you an
Yeah,
ability. So he's in the game.
as
His
Chris
nickname
Spider-Man Porter.
he's the spider, and so if you want,
Ah,
you can play as Chris, and you get a special ability, which is to I think in the game itself, some of the cards let you manipulate the dice rolls and things like that. This one lets you change your hand up a little bit, and so it's slightly different in the expansion.
cool.
Yeah,
Very neat, very neat, very neat. So, Nothing But Net coming to Kickstarter at some point in time, right? When is it launching?
April 21st.
Okay.
Yeah,
So is everything off to manufacturing already, or are you waiting till after? Or obviously, you'd probably wait till after because you need the numbers, really, right?
yeah, it's kind of in that middle space. So,
Right.
what we learned with my brother's Kickstarter, so from idea to launch was 3 months. He's like,
Hmm.
"Hey, I want to do a Kickstarter. This is my idea," and then literally 3 months later, he launched.
Right.
And so it was good and also terrible because we had done none of the foreplanning. And at
Yeah.
that point in time, I was reading like Gabe's Barrett book on
Yeah.
like how to launch a Kickstarter and all
And
these
they're
other
like, have it
things.
like 90% done before you
Yeah, and
hit
he's like,
launch.
"Yeah,
It's
I'm
like,
not going to do that," and he just did it. So this time around, the plan is to get everything done before we
yeah.
do the launch. So aside from a few art
And then you
pieces,
can compare and contrast, right?
exactly, and just see what the experience is like. So I've gotten prototypes made, um, and the files for the most part have been reviewed, and everything's looking good. And so once we do the Kickstarter and we're finished, we should hopefully be able to jump straight into production and be good to
Yeah,
go.
that'd be awesome. And then
Yeah,
it delivers in a faster time too, right? So there's not a
yeah,
long
that's
that
the
long
hope.
wait. And I think this does speak to the difference in product or platforms of, role playing games are very forgiving in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
right? You could f up one magical items and nobody's gonna care.
Yeah.
Like that's broken, nobody uses it, or it's broken and we love it because it's broken.
Mhm.
Whereas a board game or a card game has to work. Because if one card's broken and the game doesn't work, then the whole game doesn't work, right? So
Mhm.
they're different beasts, and I think you can get away with a lot more laxity on some role playing games, because especially if it's a supplement for an existing game, because everybody who plays the dragon game
Mhm.
knows how to homebrew,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
They know how to just like take that thing and like tweak it to what they want it to be, which is very different than an ecosystem that's supposed to run smoothly like a card game or a board game, right? So
Yeah, and if there's something that can be exploited in a game, you're going to find players that are going to find that, and they're going to use that every single time to try and get that advantage, just
yeah,
to win.
and there's no GM to rectify that,
Yeah.
right? Which is the other thing about role playing games is they have, somebody who kind of has final say on things, and they're like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, I get what you're trying to do. You can do that, and then I'm going to throw some frost giants at you because you
Yeah.
did that, right?" So yeah, I think there's a lot more leniency in role playing games simply because they are a little more, well, they're a little less rigid,
Mhm.
right? The other thing that's actually interesting is that your brother wants to do like 5e supplements or 5e material for
Mhm.
5e,
Mhm.
and it's not a bad business model at all because 5e is obviously the biggest thing in role playing games. Are you considering doing other role playing games? Are you considering making your own role playing games?
I
What's
don't.
on the table?
Yeah, I don't know if we would go as deep as making our own. I know he really enjoys the creative process. We did a 3 year long game where he mapped out like a whole story arc,
Yeah,
and we were doing like off action summaries to send to him, and he's going to try and put it all together in like a little book now for all of us and print it off. And each member of the
the party.
party, yeah, gets like a memento of like
Oh,
everything we went through. So the problem is we're a bunch of murder hobos that's decide violence is the solution to everything. So it's going to be an interesting book once we get it. I think he is. We're trying to try out different systems. We're meeting more in person now that we can do that, and so we're trying out different things to see what do we like, what we don't like. And I think that's what gives him a lot of inspiration once we
yeah.
get together. Like, oh, someone did this thing which is really clever. I wonder if something else like this could happen in this way. And so that's kind of how his mind works. Like he sees that thing and then it
Mhm,
just starts. It's off to the races. So I think it's probably going to stick more with things that are supplements,
mhm.
but yeah, by no means just boxed into D and
Yeah.
D.
Cool. 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 So nothing but net coming to Kickstarter, Printer and Games doing some role playing, some other tabletop stuff. What else is on the slate for Printer and Games after say nothing but net? You have something in line because it's your brother's turn.
It's my brother's turn, so we're actually planning on doing a second edition
Okay.
for his because he rushed into it. He we I think we spent $100 on marketing, and that was it for the entire
Is it?
and that was during the campaign. Like we didn't know what we were doing. I'm like, I will go on Facebook and I will spend money, and then I think we had 2 people convert from that.
Well,
So
I mean, 2 people for $100, you know?
it's, so I think the plan now is he had a whole bunch of different ideas he wanted to put into this and he couldn't. So
Mhm.
we're going to do a second edition of that. And then he's been working on the lore. So I think he wants to put together an actual book that
Mm,
has more in-depth backgrounds on each of the different items and where they
right.
came from and who created them and why did they create them. So I think that's kind of where he's leaning towards for the next D&D thing. In on my side of things, I have a few things that I'm messing around with right now. I think the one that's probably uh, the furthest along right now is a game called Plus One, which is a tile placement game where you are trying to lay out the table arrangements for a wedding reception and have the least amount of drama.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah. I
yeah,
love it.
and so the idea is can you place them down onto into the spaces, but certain things have conditions. The parents have to be up front closest to the bride and groom.
Yeah.
There
Like
is an
Uncle George and Uncle Phil can't sit together, otherwise they fight, that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have an angry uncle in the game, and I think when you
See, of course
mentioned
you do.
George, he looks like a George. I don't know if that's on
Yeah, he's
there.
Uncle George for
So
sure.
um, there's like your ex is one of the things that shows up,
Oh
and it can't
my.
be near any family.
Nope.
Your
Party
bride,
crashers.
exactly, yeah. Your bridesmaid and your bridegroom, they can kick people out without there being any damage
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
any negative points. And
Yeah.
but the thing about that one that's a bit different is um, instead of just trying to build out your tableau, as you add new pieces, it slides things over. So you know those puzzle games where it was they use them on Survivor a lot, where there's like one piece missing and you have to rearrange everything.
Yeah,
So
slide puzzles.
yeah, yeah, that's can't believe forgot the name of that. It has a bit of that dynamic. As soon
Oh,
as you add
cool.
something, it has to
It
shift. So
pushes.
you're trying to think 2-3 moves ahead, but it also has a small draft in it. Right now, it's a 2 player. I'm trying to see if I can build it up to 4. But you're drafting guests as they're coming in.
Yeah,
So you would be
very
filling
cool.
in a hall. I'm filling in a hall, and we're just trying to meet the conditions. So that one's pretty is like coming along. And then the dice is right one is something we would want to do maybe as a roll and write. And if it's popular enough, then we can do like a physical copy that people can have.
Right, but you're thinking about delivering it electronically first?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just seeing if people are interested in it and getting a whole bunch of people to play test. In fact, I think that's
Mhm.
going to be our strategy for that one. Put it out there, get as much of it done as possible, and see do people like it, and get them to play it, and then suggest their favorite of the mini. It's going to be a series of mini games because
Yeah,
game show. Which mini game did they like the most? Which one did they like the least? Why did they like the least?
and then really lean into those ones that they liked a
Yeah,
lot.
and then we can build it out and make a better version. And maybe there's certain games that we hadn't thought about, and people are like, "Hey, you should have a game that's like a mini poker game in there, or
Yeah.
the putt putt where you got to knock a hole in one." And then we can build those out and see what it's like, and then do a follow up version, whether it's digital or whether we then make a physical print version for us.
Yeah.
Um, and so those are there. We're also tinkering around on a couple other games. As I mentioned, I used to work in a museum, and
Hmm.
so I'm working on a another. It's a flip bid and write game. So you
Flip,
put
bid, and write.
flip bid and write.
It's
So you
like slip, trips, and falls.
there we go. Yeah. You see a card and it's going to have different options on it. Like if you might have a T Rex, a Triceratops, and then an egg. And so each one is going to have
Okay.
different shape on it. And the Triceratops is going to be the biggest one. It's going to take up more room in your museum. It's going to be fancier. And you're all different curators, and you've been given a bunch of money to go and procure things to make the best natural history museum. But you're bidding on it and you're blind bidding. So you might not actually know which one
Oh,
you're
cool.
going for. And then sometimes you might not actually want the biggest thing. The egg might be like a single square, but maybe you really need a single square to fill in your grid. And so you're
Oh,
really
okay. So
hoping
you
you
actually, it's
came.
like there's like a polyomino type game.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay, cool.
polynomial like placement, and then but again, you might be going for the biggest thing, but you might be
Yeah.
going for the middle thing or the last thing, and trying to figure out like, okay, how do I bluff enough to make it seem like I'm going for this, but really that, or how do I really make sure to get that one?
Interesting.
So yeah, so we're trying to figure that out. There's another game. We like a lot of tongue-in-cheek ones. So the other one we're working on is called Plotting, and it's about a community garden. And so you have these different gardeners are coming in, and they're
But
very
are you also
territorial.
murdering other people?
I mean, I could add that in there as part of like that could be that's if we go to Kickstarter, that's definitely a stretch goal.
It's
Um,
plotting
but
somebody's murder, right? So
yeah, but that would actually be kind of fun as like a little
you
throw-in. You
have a
get a
place to bury
designer
them.
credit. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that
pretty
could be the
funny.
sequel. Right now, we're
Mm,
thinking like they're coming in and they're very territorial, so they're trying to plant there, but they're also trying to like sneak into your side and take over and have a bigger part there. So you're constantly it's like a little area control game, but it's also silly because you're planting vegetables and
right.
you're
They're very
sabotaging
serious about those vegetables.
very much so, and you can sabotage one another. You can let your pet rabbit out loose, and maybe they start nibbling away at all the vegetables, and this person's part of the plot. And so
Very fun.
those are just like a few of the things. Again, silly, but hopefully, again, leaning into some of the themes.
Hmm.
So you can plant mint, and it just spreads like crazy, and now you take
Yeah.
over several spots. And so the people who are just like, I have mint, I've lived through the pain, will connect with the game in that way.
Right. And what's your hope in terms of distribution and things like that? Do you currently have distribution, or is it just like you fulfill to the customers, the backers, and like that's it, that's the end of that product? Or do you hope to like get say that deck of weird magic items
Mhm.
into stores?
Yeah, so we want this to be something long term.
Hmm.
Both my brother and I, we're not quitting our day jobs. We know that margins are really tight. We just
Hmm.
want to make something that's fun, that's out there. And so we are working with a licensing agent, MOB,
Hmm.
Meeple on board.
Yeah.
And so they've already signed Nothing But Net, and I sent them a couple copies of malfunctioning game or supplement just to see what that's like.
Yeah.
So they're going to try and see if they can get international ones. I want to take
Right.
care of the English speaking ones. Dusty and Amy Droz of Dexonomy Games
Hmm.
are phenomenal people. They're the ones that did Botany and LaFleur
Yeah.
and Endearment. And Dusty's actually doing a talk at the virtual summit talking about how to sell your game on Facebook. And
Oh,
so
cool.
I had the chance to chat with him a few times, and he brought up a really interesting point, which is a lot of game designers hope that they can get their game into a place like Barnes and Noble, and then it'll be evergreen that way. He's like, if you sell it yourself and you sell it on face or not Facebook on Amazon,
Amazon. Yeah.
you're now deciding how long you want this to go for,
Yeah.
so it
That's
becomes
right.
evergreen.
You create the evergreen.
Exactly. And Jack Dunbar from New Kingdom Games,
Hmm.
um, he is an accountant by trade, and he actually used to work for Amazon. And so I was chatting with him a while back, and he actually said that the if someone is looking to buy something, the first place they go to is actually Amazon.
Amazon. Yeah, it is.
It's not
100%.
Google. And so if you are learning how to run ads and you're successful and you're able to build your email list, you can continue that momentum. Just now redirect them towards Facebook.
Amazon.
Sorry,
Or
Amazon.
Facebook.
Yeah, sorry. I
Yeah.
keep thinking Facebook because of the ads. You can direct them towards Amazon, and
Well,
then
your Facebook ads
ideally,
could go to Amazon, I guess.
yeah, exactly. And so then it's this like cycle. So then essentially what you're doing is you're keeping track of your inventory, you're looking for trends, and you're seeing all of that
Hmm.
to see is does this make sense? Is it actually working? And if it is, then you keep going with it. And if it's not, well, you cut your losses. You know that you made something that you enjoy, or a few other people enjoy, and that's kind of where it's at.
Yeah,
So that's
it's run its course,
yeah,
and you're okay. But if the numbers are still good, you can keep printing, right?
yeah, exactly. And as a printer, I approve of such a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny because you're right. Like we've had some great games out there, games that were like critically, rated and score really well and are mentioned in like lauded company with other games, but then the publisher goes, well, no.
Oh, I think we may have lost Sen for a moment.
Want to do it
There we
anymore. And when that happens, when you seize the means of production, like you're doing with printer and games, then you can control whether Nothing But Net has a life past the first printing, right?
go. Mhm.
Which I think is a very important thing for people to understand. Like when you pour your heart and soul into a game and then it kind of gets discarded on a whim, it gets kind of tough, right? So I think that Kickstarter has really obviously made that a reality for more people, which is a good thing. I think it's a good thing. In general, there's definitely some not so great games that get made on Kickstarter, but they die a fiery death anyways, right?
Mhm.
The market will bear what the market will bear. But then a lot of people who are maybe not so good at this stuff yet at least get a chance to become better,
Mhm.
because their project funds and then people give them feedback and they learn from that. They become better at making version 2 or a wholly different game that is just even better, and they forget about the first one. They let that one die the death it deserves.
Mhm.
So I think there's a lot to be said about self-publishing, that if you have the druthers to do it, if you have the wherewithal to do it and the skills, or are willing to at least learn the skills, it's a good idea to maybe consider. Um, if you don't have those skills, you can learn them. They're not unlearnable. And you can learn them by working with a publisher who does have those skills if they'll sign your first game. But that's the other thing, too. Like, I mean, the whole rigmarole with pitching and stuff, it does become really disheartening to get, rejections all the time, which is an interesting topic in and of itself.
Mhm.
But the flip side of all the self-publishers is that, is there a lot of checking? Is there a lot of checks and balances in place? Because that's really kind of what we would hope that a publisher is doing, is
Mhm.
running the checks and balances to make sure the game is good, right? So
Yeah, that
we'll
development work.
see.
And I know you're a teacher. I'm a teacher, and I feel like it. This is something that comes up quite a lot with assignments. Like you ask students to do a presentation, and the
Mhm.
PowerPoint looks phenomenal, and then but the substance is missing from it. But they did all
Or
the
or
other
the opposite, right?
or the
Yeah.
opposite. Yeah, it's and so I remember reading a post on Reddit a while ago where someone was lamenting Kickstarter games, and they're just like, I don't understand why these people are pumping in thousands of dollars to make their game, but they're not willing to put the time in to test, like play it, to make sure the game is fine. And I remember that really sticking with me because at that point in time, I had in my head that I'm going to do my own game. I hadn't play tested it enough. And then
Yeah.
I read that and I'm like, oh, I'm putting my energy in the wrong place right now. I need to focus on play testing this, take this thing to pros to be able to get like people who haven't played before to test it out, the blind play
Mhm.
test, all of that. And that's going to be the thing that helps with the game. The art's going to definitely be something, but that's not what I need to focus on right now. That should be
Yeah,
the last thing I focus
so many people focus on the eye candy because it is what draws people. It
on.
is, definitely. But the longevity of a game isn't gonna be in its art. Not
Mhm.
necessarily anyways, unless people just buy it for its art pieces, or, like, a lot of miniatures games, they
Yeah.
might have more longevity just because people like those miniatures. But in general, it's going to be eye-catching, then does it actually play well?
Mhm.
That would be the best combination, right? There's definitely people out there who will play the most awful looking games, but they're
Yeah.
really good games.
Yeah.
But there's almost nobody who will play that really beautiful game that has just no gameplay in it, again and again.
Yeah. It
That's
ends
that's
up on the
that's rarer.
shelf of shame. So
Yeah, or you sell it or
mhm.
or whatever. So, yeah, Luke, you're right. There are also not so great games made by publishers. You are correct. And part of that, I think, is because there are so many publishers now,
Mhm.
right? Everybody can be a publisher, which is good and bad, right? Because it's been very democratized. But I think what will happen is, like most people, if you're into like the whole idea of free markets, right? That
Mhm.
the cream will rise to the top,
Mhm.
right? If the wallets are what we vote with. So there you go. So yeah, I think that's really cool, and I'm really happy to hear that you are putting all your effort into Nothing But Net and trying to make it a thing. That will be great to see. But I also wanted to talk to you in the last couple of minutes here, because we got
Mhm.
about 20 minutes left, about the future of Meeple Syrup, right?
Yeah.
So everybody out there in Meeple Syrup Land, there's only a couple of you watching, but that's okay. You know that Kat and George have moved to a completely different country where it's a completely different time zone. They were 3 hours behind. Now they're 5 or 6 hours ahead, and that just it's just not conducive for them being hosts. And Hafiz reached out to me and said, "Hey, uh, what do you think?" And so we had a meeting. We talked, and I think it'd be pretty cool to have Hafiz on the show, and hopefully you all do too. Um, so I wanted to talk to you about, what do you want to get out of this whole
Mhm.
maple syrup thing there, Hafiz?
Yeah. And so I reached out to you, and I think sent a very awkward message on Facebook
I mean,
Messenger.
how could it not be awkward,
Yeah.
right?
And it was essentially like, I really enjoy listening to Meeple Syrup. When I'm able to join live, I try and join live. Otherwise, I'll catch on the replay.
Yeah.
And I know it's big shoes to fill. Kat's awesome. She did a overview of my rules for Nothing But Net, like when I did the first draft, and it was terrible. And so I forever owe her for that. And you and I were chatting, and I was essentially sharing that, like, I'm in this interesting space where I'm not a complete beginner, but I'm not an expert, and I'm kind of
Hmm.
straddling those two worlds. And it'd be kind of fun to connect with people and still talk about things that I would like to learn, things that I wish I knew. Those things that you tend to kind of forget about the more you've been in that space and the more
Yeah.
expertise you build up.
Yeah.
And also just the fact that you talk to really cool people all the time,
All the time.
and game designers,
Like
publishers.
Hafiz.
Why thank you.
He's a really
Um,
cool person.
and so just the opportunity to be able to talk to other people, and nerd out about games and what makes games amazing and how we can make more games and what people are doing in the space. It just, you had a call out on one of the episodes, and I kind of dragged my feet for a little bit, and finally, like, I'm just going to write Sen. I feel like
There you go.
worse than I can say, he can say is no.
Great.
And you did the opposite. You're like, let's hop on a call. Let's chat a little bit about what this could be. And we were talking about all kinds of things. We were talking about family. We were talking about games. We were talking about living in the Greater Toronto area. Um, and so, yeah, it just, hopefully it's a good fit, and then you and I can um, continue to nerd out about things.
Hmm. I mean, and of note, you are available on Wednesday evening.
That
So
is true. That was the first thing you asked. Like, are you
yeah,
available on Wednesdays, and how available are you on Wednesdays? I'm like, completely free. And I think at that point you're like, you're in.
you're in. Well, that's definitely a big part of it, right? Like we've had this slot for years, and my life kind of revolves around this time slot. So keeping it the same is a good idea. So I gave Hafiz homework, everybody, when we had this call, and I said, "Hey, write me out a list of things you'd like to talk about." So I'm going to. Uh, there's like, I don't know, what is it, like 30 ideas you've got here? There's a
I
lot.
think there's
Uh,
like
I
25
am
or so.
I'm going to read some of the ideas, and you tell me what you want to talk about, and maybe even who you want to talk to or who you think would be good to talk to. And people in the chat, if you want to say, "Oh, I know somebody who would be good at that," let me know. Okay, so the first idea here is underrepresented themes and mechanics. So, what do you want to talk about, and why does that interest you as a topic?
Yeah. So there's certain things we see coming up over and over again. One thing you and I chatted about is you can see the trends, like deck
Yeah.
building was a really big thing for a while, and then roll and write was a really big thing for a while, and then area control was a really big thing. And so trick taking. And you tend to see certain things cycle over and over. But other mechanics you don't really see very often, like Prisoner's Dilemma or I Cut You Choose. And just diving into, well, why is that? Is it because the mechanic isn't a good mechanic? Is it because it's just a difficult one to plan around? What are games that have used it and used it to really good effect? And then how can you also use that to maybe make yourself stand out if you're designing a game,
Mhm.
if you're trying to pitch to a publisher? That novelty aspect of it is something that's definitely going to keep catch someone's eye. And then in regards to themes, same kind of thing. What are there's so many space games, there's so many vampire games and zombie games,
Mhm.
and but what are some themes that we don't really see that often out there? But that would be so much fun. Like we have lots of pirate games, but why don't we have more games on candy factories that murder children, so then the workers don't have to, like, right? And so why don't we see more games?
So
um
you're basically creating a use case for your next game
yeah,
is what
yeah,
you're
I'm,
saying.
I'm
Okay, okay.
yeah, pretty much trying to test the waters on that one. But I mean, botany was a good example, right? Like you had this game about adventurers going to collect flowers, and it was something that just really resonated with people. And we saw it with Wingspan as well too. Like, hey, here's a game about birds and bird sanctuaries and watching them and seeing how, and people, pardon the pun, flocked to it, right? And so, there's something to be said about diving into themes that are a little wacky, maybe a little
Hmm.
bit off the beaten path, and maybe something that you're just passionate about. Because if you're passionate about, you're going to put all of that into the game, and people are going to be able to feel that, and the people that are looking for those kinds of things. And so I think it's two sides of the same coin. Like these things aren't being looked at, but are they not being looked at because they're not interesting, or are they not being looked at because people don't think that others want to see or play that? But we've seen examples of that actually being the complete opposite. People want to see these things, they want to engage with them and have fun with them.
Right. Yeah, and I think there is a lot to say about mechanisms, especially mechanisms. Themes are a little bit different, but I think there's a lot to say there too. So that's cool. Just even off the top of my head, some mechanics are good for different sizes of games too, right?
Hmm.
Because some mechanics are like I can make a lot of content around that, which means I can make a lot of size and time length and campaign and all these things that we can do. If we have a lot of cards, we're able to do a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
You'll find that most of the bigger games, just like it's like reams and reams of cards, because it allows you to do so much with your mechanisms. So like deck building was huge because of things like that.
Hmm.
Whereas I cut you choose, can you actually base a game that is longer than, maybe 45 minutes on that singular mechanism? I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, maybe you can. Or is it a game that, or is that a mechanism that's really supplemental to another mechanism, right? So,
Yeah, that maybe they work in unison.
yeah,
But I
all
mean,
those things we can talk about. That's great.
mhm. Yeah, and
Uh,
I'm just thinking Agent Avenue just came out, and I believe that's a I Cut You Choose, doing phenomenally well right now.
mhm. So let's talk about another one. Let's see here. Um, Constraints leading to creativity in design.
Mm.
All right. What do you want to talk about that?
Um, there's a Mark Twain quote which I always found hilarious, which is, "I didn't have time to write a short letter, so I wrote a long one instead."
Right.
And I feel like that's an interesting approach for game design. It's really hard when you're trying to design an 18 card game,
Yeah,
or if you're
totally.
trying to design something that would fit inside of a pop can. Like your components have to fit inside this thing, um, and so when you don't have constraints, the whole world is there. You have all of these different options, and so it can become a bit analysis paralysis. Just as a game designer, trying to think about what direction you want to go. But if you know you can only use a standard 52 card deck, well, you've already kind of like locked in on that, and then you're trying to think about, well, how can I use these in an interesting way? And so you can dive into the design, I think, a little bit more quickly when you have a limitation.
Yeah, because the
And you,
world is not your oyster.
exactly, and you have to be more creative with it, I think, as a result too. Like,
Hmm.
how would you, if you're making an 18 card game, how would you do that? And so Button Shy, like going through their catalog, so many interesting things. And even when they do their contests, they'll talk about some of them. I remember seeing or them hearing them talk about one which was about making burgers. So your cards were actually trying to like flip
Flip.
like
Yeah,
patties and other
Addis.
things, and like that. There's like some interesting dexterity that comes with that, and then you have other games that um, you know, like Sprawlopolis, where you're trying to
Mhm.
build out a city and you're laying things in certain patterns. And you see that in games that are a little bit larger, but to get that feeling into something
Mhm.
small, like you really have to be creative and think about the feeling, and it's getting to the essence of the game. Like there's nowhere to hide.
Yes.
There's nowhere to hide.
You're not hiding behind, like, giant components and, like, dice towers and,
Mhm.
lore or anything like that. This is, like, laid bare, pretty plain. And there was an era of games that were like that. So in the early 2000s, late 1990s, with the first wave of Euro games came over, they were all like that. They were very, like, one-note games, but they did those things so well that they captured the imagination of people. And now we have kind of like these Frankenstein games where it's like this mechanic and this mechanic and this mechanic and this mechanic, and I don't know if they're better or worse. I just think there may be different experiences, and
Mhm.
I think that you're right that there's a different constraint. It's funny, speaking of constraints, like we were talking about, designing in the COVID era. You can tell some games that like you designed that during COVID when you could only play on TTS because the game is like so component heavy
Mhm.
because TTS allows you to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
77 dice, not a problem.
Yeah. You just multiply or get your infinity bag, and then you're ready to go with as many things as you want. And I mean, even in the current situation, the constraints are
Mhm.
things like tariffs. You need to think about how are you going to, if you think of it as a product, how are you going to ship this? It needs to be something small, it needs to be under a certain weight, thinking about your components that are coming in. And so you can look at it in a bunch of different ways as well,
Mhm.
too.
Luke is talking about, sorry, this is off topic. I saw a video by a right wing channel talking about Core of Discovery getting canceled, which is, one of my games. They started with the video with the woke mind virus in board games, and it's awful. And it made Luke angry. And Luke, I would love to talk to you about this game sometimes because it is obviously um, a game that is perhaps, well, the theme, right, is a theme that is perhaps a little bit trepidatious, especially given that you are indigenous, right? So I think it's something that we could talk about, should talk about in some respect, because the person who started the conversation about it did not like that we made this game about Manifest Destiny, right? Because that the name of the comic that it's based on is Manifest Destiny. Anyways, there's a lot of issues that are still unresolved about it, um, and it's this interesting conundrum where the comic book is actually a flip. It's actually very hypercritical of Manifest Destiny and of colonization, but you wouldn't get that from the name of it. But I also don't expect everybody to read 48 comics to understand this. And so we changed the name, and now there's all this kerfuffle about it, right? So, anyways, is it canceled? Do I care? I mean, I do, but also I think it's the case of perhaps misunderstanding and misrepresentation because of perhaps people don't understand the source material. And yes, that it is a difficult issue to talk about. Um, and so we have to like think about a lot of questions. So I talked to some people about it, and I have some thinking to do about it. I don't necessarily think that I have my mind made up about anything about it yet. But yeah, thanks for bringing it up. It is something that has been playing on my mind because they started talking about it a couple days ago, and it's nothing that I really have the ability right now to make a statement about because it's the start of the term, so I'm very busy. But it is something that is out there. So I don't know if we have to address it or talk about it. But in the end, it is a subject that I understand some people may be upset about. So, anyways, there you go. But yes, I don't know why it made you angry, Luke. But yeah, if you want to talk about it with me sometime, I'd be more than happy to chit chat with you about it. Okay, cool. That actually is another one that's on here. If you look at your second one down there, it says designers drawing inspiration from their own cultures and backgrounds. So, what interests you about that?
Yeah. I mentioned before with the different themes that you're seeing coming up time and time again. it's nice to be able to see something and really connect with it and just like a core level. There was a game that was on GameFound recently called Ras, which is like a traditional South Asian dance, and a lot of times you do that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I saw that and I got so I didn't even look at the gameplay.
You're just
And
like, bye.
eventually I did. I'm like, this is so cool because we used
Hmm.
to do Ross at weddings and other things, and like it was just a fun thing to do. And the fact that it's being incorporated into the board game space, or now you're seeing games about koi pawns
Yeah.
and like traditional art forms that are coming up in games, and it's like, oh wow, like this is showing that gamers aren't like that typical version of what you imagine a gamer to be. Like it's not the group from the Big Bang Theory. It's like all kinds of people look like you, people look like me, and they're
Hmm.
drawing ideas from their own backgrounds. Like, okay, you know what would be really cool? This, and other people are now being exposed to these things through board games. And
Hmm.
I think the board games as a medium, I think, is really interesting in being able to expose people to various experiences, various backgrounds, various peoples, and it doesn't necessarily need to be we're fighting World War I in like the European arena. It can be all kinds of different things.
Hmm.
And you're starting to see more and more of that, and you're starting to see, I think, more and more designers coming from different spaces. I know the Zenobia Award is something that really helps to support creators from different backgrounds get their games out there. And so I just thought that was fascinating because you're seeing a lot more of these games, and I think it'd be really great to actually just talk to these game designers, like what inspired you to go in this direction. Um,
Right.
mm,
Yeah. Where is that inspiration come from?
mm.
You have, oh, here's a good one because you actually listed an expert. Games in museums. And what
Ah,
is Urban Capers? Tell me about Urban Capers.
So um, I do this with my teacher PDs. So Urban Capers is really interesting. Essentially, what they do is they create mystery scavenger hunts
Hmm.
in places like the Royal Ontario Museum, the Art Gallery of Ontario, but also in spaces like the Distillery District in Toronto.
Right.
And they've branched out to different cities. But essentially, what they do is they get people together and they give them a role.
Oh, really?
You're detectives. You're trying to solve this. Here's the background. Here's your clue booklet. And now they're experiencing a space in a very different way than they would normally. When people go into a museum, the average amount of time someone spends looking at an object in a museum, they did studies on this, it's less than 7 seconds. And so, yeah, it's enough time to kind of glance at it and move on, or glance at it, take a picture
Hmm.
and move on. It's ridiculously
Interesting.
short. And
Yeah.
so, what this company did is it's a Canadian company, female owned, and after doing a history degree and like finishing all that and trying to figure out what to do, they're like, well, what if we just did these like really interesting capers where people can solve mysteries, but they're really like exploring these spaces and these objects in a different way, but it's
Right.
it's active and they're moving around and they're doing things, and
That's fascinating. I love it.
yeah, it's kind of like an escape room experience without
Hmm.
the escape part of it. Like
Yeah.
there's less of that pressure, and they've kind of evolved over time. So I've had the chance to join a few of them, and as I mentioned, I run teacher PDs, and I actually get my teachers to take part in one of these to again
Right. That makes
think about
sense.
how to experience like object based learning, but also like going to a space and trying to get people who wouldn't normally engage in a place like a museum, because it's not going to be for everyone, to
Yeah.
engage in that space. But you're working together. There's teamwork. There's
Hmm.
all kinds of really great things that take place. But they started off with pencil, pen, and an actor that would kind of walk you through it. And they've shifted a little bit more digital now. So you still have the physical person that
Okay.
tells you, but they've been using an app called Goose Chase
Oh,
to
to like run something
yeah
on your phone?
to run the whole thing. And so I think it's just interesting to see how did they bring playfulness to a place that traditionally, when you think of a museum, there's maybe some really great memories, but there's also some stodginess that comes with like that too, right?
Sure.
You need to be quiet in these spaces. You have to act a certain way. But
Right.
this one, it's like, okay, but you're actually going around and you are solving a murder mystery. And you're competing against all the other people who are doing it too. So you can
Right.
do
So there's
fun
a little time crunch, but not
competition.
as much as an
Yeah,
escape room.
exactly. And so it's just something that's really interesting.
So is it kind of like an ARG plus a scavenger hunt plus a murder mystery story plus a
Yeah,
escape
it's
roomy
like
type thing?
they all got together and just decided to like
Have a little
have a good
baby.
old time. Yeah.
A very strange baby. Oh, hey, Kristen Mott. How are you, Kristen? And Matt Paquette. They're out there looking. Um, Kristen would be a good one to have on for drawing inspiration from background.
Mm,
She just released a game about horses, and I love it. I'm not a horse person, but I have so many friends who are horse people
mhm,
that I think they deserve a game, a really good one. Hello. And Matt Paquette, if you're out there, we have Hafiz has a question about anatomy of a card, graphic design 101 for game designers. I know Matt has done stuff like that with us before. Maybe it's time to do it again,
mm,
right? So lots of experts out there. We hope we can get to you. So there's a whole list of things that Hafiz wants to talk about. I'm going to go through them later on, like how to make a print and play, right? Game design, imposter syndrome, game design for anxiety. Wow. Rejection. That's where I actually was talking about that because I read your list. How to deal with being rejected by a publisher. Fascinating. So all these things, we're going to go through them one by one. Hafiz and I will go through them, figure out if we have any experts that we can talk to. And those could be you. Maybe you've gone through, say, a lot of rejection from big publishers, and you're like, I have these tried and true methods of dealing with that. I think that would be wonderful. So if you're out there in Meeple Syrup Land and you are an expert on any topic, maybe Hafiz and I will actually do something with this list, like put it out there somewhere and like people can apply to be on it. I don't know. I don't know. Or Hafiz, if you have the actual speakers, I know you haven't had time to flesh this list out, but that would be great too.
yeah.
We'll go through the list together, flesh it out a little bit more. And oh, what do you mean by approach? He's got a little spreadsheet over there, guys. It has a column called approach, and so I want to know what that's about.
Ah. Oh, yeah. Approach was more so, is this going to be
Oh, like a
a
round table or a
roundtable? Is this going to be an
yeah,
expert speaker? Is you me riffing back and forth?
yeah, cool. Most of them we're gonna have a guest. I love having guests. New people are always great. And yes, Luke, you're correct. Pam Walls is doing great work as an independent designer. She is out in British Columbia. Um, I don't know if she's originally from out west, but she was in Toronto for some time, and then she moved out west after.
Yeah, and her
She used
YouTube
to run,
channel is
yeah,
great.
yeah. It actually got a really nice mention in Cardboard Edison about one of the best resources on the web to go look at if you're a new designer is all of Pam Wall's stuff on YouTube. She is very open. She actually runs like a co-working time because
Mm,
she works full time as a game designer, and so I don't know what day it is, but there's some time every week, set time every week where you can, just join. I think on Twitch, it might be on Twitch, where you're just joining her and she's doing her work and you can do your work. And, it's like a design hour. And sometimes you'll ask questions to each other. Sometimes you'll say, hey, have you ever heard of a game that does this? Because I need something to compare it to or whatever. And she might know, or somebody else in the co-working space might know, right? So it's a really nice way for people who are basically independent freelancers to have some collegiality and some sense of togetherness when a lot of times you're just sitting at your computer by yourself until it's playtest day, right? So there you go. Yeah, and she is super nice in real life, as Luke says. Yes. So yeah, well, probably Luke will find something for Pam to do. I'm sure she's an expert on lots of these things, so we'll have her on at some point in time. She is 3 hours behind us, so she'll be wide awake right now. All right, everybody, that's it for today. We are past the hour, which is okay. And welcome, Hafiz, to the show. It's wonderful. If you want to talk more to me, you can reach me on Blue Sky primarily at Senfeng Lim. We're at Meeple Syrup on all of the things. You can see and reach Hafiz on at Printer Ink Games on Instagram. If you like to keep the lights on here, patreon.com/Meeple Syrup. And shout outs to all of you who joined the show today. We'll have to. This is a George thing. George wanted to do this, and I just didn't think about it until I saw the little quote here. Every week, have somebody to shout out in the industry who's doing something good, positive about getting more people, or donating to a good cause or something like that. So if you find anything that's shout out worthy, let us know. And today it's to all the viewers. Thanks for coming back after a little bit of a winter break hiatus. And so next week, Hafiz, we got to plan something for next week. So that is our job. We will plan something for next week. I don't know what it'll be yet. And hopefully, once we get this rolling and our working relationship flow going, then we'll have stuff done in advance, which would be super nice for you viewers, so you know when to tune in and to pay attention specifically for specific things if you had that burning question. And speaking of burning questions, if you do have any burning questions, reach out to me or Hafiz on any of our various socials and get at us saying, like, I'd really like a talk on this. Or if you're an expert on something, say, could I talk about this? And we'll find some way to do that. Okay, you're awesome. We'll see you guys later. Oh, hey, I forgot to do the one thing I told you had to do. Hafiz, what is your final advice?
Final advice. I mean, just enjoy going through it. I think so often people are like, you have to do things in this way, or you have to do this to earn money. And sometimes it's fun just to create. Like if you have an idea, grab a piece of paper, jot it down, cut it up, try it out. And if it works, awesome. And if it doesn't, hey, you made something. And it doesn't always need to be a big thing. It could just be something you created in that moment and you had fun with it.
Yep. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Everybody, will see you here next week, same time, same place, and actually the same host. Look at that. Hafiz will be joining the show officially, not as a guest, and we'll have somebody else as a guest. I don't know who it is yet, but we'll figure it out. So keep your eyes peeled. Meeple Syrup Shop Talk on Facebook. Blue Sky. We're still on X, though I think it's a piece of garbage. So we might just phase out X this year. So it's like one place less. The only reason, guys, why I use X is because you can schedule posts. That is literally the only reason. I know there's a way to do it on Blue Sky, but it requires another app or something, and I just haven't got around to it. Anyways, we'll see you all later. Good night. Thank you very much, Hafiz. Good to talk to you. We'll chat more over the week and make some plans for like world domination
Looking
that
forward
doesn't
to it.
involve killing children in a chocolate factory.
No, that's for the players to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We'll see you later.
Take
Bye.
care, everyone.